recognise her. She's got fairly large straight tusks. The adult, or the matriarch of the herd that we were with yesterday, had two rather short tusks. One of her left tusk was chipped and broken. Let's see there. It looks pretty thick. And I have tried to follow leopard in here before. See if we can find a way in here, but at the moment I can't see any of these ellies now, and there's no way that I can get in here without crashing through bushes, which I'm not prone to do, especially with young elephants around. But I'm going to drive around. I'm going to go up onto Aubrey's Road, and in the meantime, while I'm trying to find these ellies, I'm going to hand you over to James so that you can meet James, and I'll see you a little bit later.
Okay, we're in. Good morning, everyone. Quite an exciting first morning for me. Welcome to Nkuhuma. Welcome to Safari Live. My name is James. We're following a pride of lions. New lions for me. I've never seen them. I don't know who they are, so maybe you can help me out. There was a lion. She's moved off, so we're going to try and follow up and see if we can follow them. Okay, here we go. In front of us. Morning all.
They reckon that the optimum size from a hunting success and sufficient food is about 5 lions.
Is it?
Yeah, and when it gets to more than that, then it's more difficult to feed the whole pride. But on average, from research that's been done across...
So I don't know if anybody can see these lions.
It's about 12.
Maybe you can help me identify them.
So the debate that's going on inside
chasing
the circles now is...
herd of buffalo this morning, probably missing.
Related to hunting success.
And it looks like they're settling in for the day. I suspect this mist will lift fairly soon, and they will then just go and rest in the shade. They will go and rest in the shade and do what lions do best, which is nothing.
Lion here is a very striking male. How old do you think he is?
I would say he's between like 2 or 3 years old.
The young male there we can see is probably about 3 years old.
Does he know it's coming, or is he just doing
I don't think he knows what's coming.
Okay.
They're probably going to come and seek you out and earn your own living.
Yeah, and so the gene dispersal is through the males. So the males, he'll get kicked out and get chased into a neighbouring lion's territory.
Perhaps somebody can send through some information on this pride for me. If any of you know the history or you've seen them, you can tell me what's going on with them and who they are.
For a single male to take over a territory, that's very unusual. So what will probably happen, if he's lucky, is he'll find another male in the same predicament that's also been kicked out, that's also alone.
Oh yes, I need to tell you that too. It's hashtag Safari Live for Twitter, and the email address is
Yes, that's right. So because they are being chased all the time,
questions@wildearth.tv.
He's going to end up establishing his territory more than likely far away.
Well, apparently the pride dynamics here are changing, where that young male is likely to be booted out fairly soon by 2 much larger adults who've come into the area. Unfortunately, fairly standard practice for lions, but he's now big enough to look after himself, so he'll be okay. As far as I'm aware, there aren't any small cubs here, and as I'm sure you all know, infanticide is a large part of lion behavior, and big males coming into an area like this will normally kill cubs that are below a year old, but I don't see any youngsters that age at the moment. Do you need me to move? Do you need me to move? Do you need me to move? Move on. Just talking to another game drive vehicle that has been following these lions through the bush this morning. It's a fantastic way to start doing this exciting new thing, Game Drive Live. As the mists lift. Just like I'm sure some of you have got house cats, you can see the lioness in front of us just cleaning herself there. Either that or she's got a thorn in her foot, which is quite possible. Imagine walking through here barefoot, but like Marc.
He said us to find his fee in the post. And then the story that Ian's talking about, synchronization. So what happens is, the purpose of the males is obviously to reproduce, but also to protect the territory, to ensure that their cubs survive, grow up and survive, or reach adulthood. If something happens along the way, and some bigger, stronger lion comes up.
That's the male there. Oh, there we go. Got a bit of action.
There's some little cubs in the pride. Those new lions.
Social bonds within the pride, so that they know or feel some kind of cohesion when they're hunting or when they're resting up there.
So he mates and then goes off thinking that he's produced and nothing happens.
That male looks like he's going to be a magnificent beast in a few years' time.
It can be up to 3 cycles. So the purpose of that is to ensure that whatever male takes over the territory is going to hold on to the territory. It's a big enough, strong enough line. Because if she just mates with the first male that comes along, it may not be strong enough, and then other males chase her and kill the cubs again. So there needs to be, so it take up to 6 months for everything to stabilize and new males to set themselves up and to reproduce.
Blair on Twitter, thank you very much. I believe this is the Nkuhuma Pride. It's very exciting for me. I've never seen them before, and I believe there were lots of others who have correctly identified these lions. Well done to you all. Thanks very much for helping me out, and I hope that you'll continue to do that throughout the drive. Roads are new, bushes are new, animals are new, everything's new.
Smaller cubs can end up not getting. So what happened? Raise the cubs alone because there's a better chance of survival than being.
Joanne from Arizona has informed me that there's a juvenile male and 7 lionesses or 7 other members of the pride, so that's probably the juvenile we're looking at there. That's the young male who I was speaking about, who is soon to get a rude awakening and be tossed out of his natal pride. Unlike with humans, where we have to look after our children ad infinitum, the lions tend to toss them out once they get to about 3 years old. And the reason for that is quite interesting. There are two reasons for it. The main one is to stop incest or inbreeding, because what happens with lions is that when they reach the breeding age, they tend not to have any qualms about mating with kin. And so one of the big advantages to having the lions tossed out when they're 3 years old by strange males coming into an area is that they prevent that inbreeding from happening, and they keep the gene pool as deep as possible. The other reason is that often in a pride like this, if the males have been around, or the dominants have been around, here we go, we've got some action here. If the dominants have been around for more than 3 years, often there has been some inbreeding, and so the young cubs that are killed by males coming in, we often think of it from our anthropomorphic point of view as being very savage, but in actual fact it's protecting the gene pool from getting shallow through inbreeding.
Dominance display. So we have the thing of connecting with Bruce, and we saw with lions, and the one sort of seems to mount that, like Bruce says, it's a dominance display. But it looked as though it was more than a dominance display. And why? I mean, was it?
And when you said you say the male was mating with the female.
There was an argument, but it was male and female. It was kind of very. It wasn't like a proper mating, every few minutes.
But sometimes it also takes time for the estrous cycle to take.
Miss Jin from Dallas, Texas, welcome to you. You're obviously a bit of an insomniac. Welcome. Nice to have you with us. You want to know how old is the average for a male to be tossed out of a pride? It's normally on their reaching sexual maturity, which is probably between 2.5 and 3 years. Now, sexual maturity for lion is 2.5 and 3 years, but that's not when they get to their biggest. Their optimum size is probably between 6 and 8 years. 8 years they'll start to lose muscle mass slightly, but 6-year-old lion, 6-7-year-old lion is a big size male. I mean, he's going to be at his maximum mass then, and up to 8. So, but between 2.5 and 3, if there are other males in the area, or if there are still if his father is in the pride, he will be thrown out then. I hope that answers your question, Miss Jin. Beautiful pictures there of them moving through the mist. Classic lion shots.
Yeah, especially this time, yeah.
So which one trains in the hunting?
No, it's not the male.
It's a lioness that has like a girl.
That would be the lioness experience that determines. So her life experience, the adult lioness's life experiences would probably determine some of those specialities.
So does this pride have a specialty?
Not that I know.
There's a very interesting female that runs on.
Marianne in Boston wants to know, is it possible that lionesses might kill their own cubs? Marianne, yes, it's possible. I wouldn't say it's typical lion behavior. I have certainly seen it happen, and where the female will actually eat her own cubs. So I've not seen her physically kill them, but if there is a food shortage, or she's for some reason stops lactating because she can't eat, she will either leave them to their fate, or she might kill them. It would be abhorrent behavior. It would be very unusual behavior for her to actually kill them, not so much to eat them. And the reason for that is obviously one doesn't want to, in times of food shortage, you don't want to waste nutrients that might be there. And secondly, we often think of lions or wild animals as being sort of the kind of creature that will protect their young to the death. And that doesn't make a great deal of sense from an evolutionary point of view, because an adult female who protects her young to the point that she is injured negates her ability to then breed further, and even if the cubs survive, whatever trauma it is that she's had to defend them from, they won't survive to adulthood without her. So, to answer your question, it would be abhorrent behavior for her to kill them, but not unusual for her to eat them should they die from starvation or if they were killed by some other animal. I hope that answers your question, Marianne. Very nice view there of the back of the lion's ears, that black patch. They're the only cats that I know of that have that black patch, and what's interesting is that they're also the only communally hunting cats. And we think that might have something, that black patch at the back of the ears might have something to do with to be a following mechanism of some sort when they're hunting through this bush. And you can see how difficult it would be to see that tawny-coloured animal in this tawny-coloured bush. But now look at that lion. I don't know if you can see that lion has just stood up. Yes, there you go. You can see how obvious that black patch is as she walks. Same with the tip of the tail. There's not a lot of that deep black colour in the bush out here. And so that's actually, it's a very nice example. You can see as she moves there, the black tip to her tail and the black back to her ears are the most obvious features of her in this. And as you can see, as she's gone out of shot there, you can see how perfectly camouflaged the lion's tawny colour is to this winter vegetation.
I do have another station also standing here waiting.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm going to also pull out.
Just come over Gary then, until that road towards Gary Kaplan, and then just look north. Follow to the
Typical male behavior.
there's 3 seconds from now. First you start to step out.
Battle of the sexes.
Thank you all for your kind words of welcome. It's very good to be here, and it's very nice to be back in the bush again. I've just come back from a short stint. In Oklahoma, I hope I've got your name pronunciation correct. Jimmerlin would like to know what are the sort of noticeable features or problems that occur with inbreeding in lions. Sometimes for a generation or two there aren't any noticeable differences, certainly far less than there would be in, say, human beings, for example. But eventually what happens is that disease resistance would diminish significantly, and you would also have possibly some sort of cognitive issues, and eventually if the inbreeding became severe enough, you would also have physical effects such as you might have an extra digit or two, or faulty ears or faulty eyes or something like that. But mainly, the main thing for an animal out here, remember there's no medical care at all, is disease and parasite resistance. And those are the first things that will be compromised by animals that are too closely related, breeding with each other. That's why it's so important for animals for prides like this, and in fact it happens in a lot of the other cats, where unrelated males tend to come into an area and take over. So if we look at leopards, for example, the females of an area will often be loosely related. Female leopards will often set up territories next to their mothers, but their sons are often tossed out by the territorial male, and the territorial male will then be unrelated to the females of the area, and so that keeps the gene pool a bit deep. For a generation or two, sometimes there will be some inbreeding. So if we go back to the lions, the males that take over this pride, I know that there are two in the area that are starting to dominate here. It's unlikely that they are related to these females, not impossible, but unlikely, and so that keeps the gene pool wide. And the further, there's the young male going now. I think he might be a little older than 3. No, he's definitely going to have some trouble when a big adult comes in here. There we go. You can see them. They like to lie close, especially if it's a bit cooler. So as I was saying, the more distantly related the breeding pair is, the greater the chance that their parasite and disease resistance will be higher, because they aren't related, they will have different suites of resistance to disease and parasites. I hope that answers your question.
Go north now. You can find an opening. Go north.
I'm just going to try and reposition the vehicle and see if we can't get a better view now that young male has moved. Just going to very gingerly go in here. Is quite thick, so we'll make a bit of noise, which I don't really want to do. But these lions, unlike some of their fragile cat cousins, tend not to be affected too much by the noise. They're so confident in their own ability to dominate the area and the situation. There we go. Make some space for the others.
Just looking down at Holland 3 stations in the lock. WildEarth, Kirsty, and myself and Greg on approach.
You can see how, if you were wandering through here on foot, it would be pretty easy to trip over one of these lions without seeing them, perfectly camouflaged as they are.
Very cut line. Do you want me to give it a little bit more time, or can I slowly start making my way?
Yeah, I'm going to start now. 15 minutes to be out. And then you can put it.
Alright, thanks.
Leave the area.
I think it's... just hang around here for a little while and see what happens. It would be nice to try and get around to the other side, but there are 3 or 4 people trying to get in to see the sighting, And the bush, as you can see, is quite thick around here. And for me to move around and get a sort of better view and a backlit view of the animals, it's going to be, without disturbing them, it's going to be very difficult. So we're just going to wait here for a little while, and then we might try and move around just now. This is what lions, of course, do better than anything else in the world, and that is sleep. Up to 20 hours of the day. Thanks very much for that update. I'm afraid I didn't catch the name. Cal in Santa Monica has helpfully told me that this male is apparently struggling to leave home, like I'm sure many of the human males around these days, and he's been chased out apparently 2 or 3 times already by the Matimba male. Matimba means strength in Shangaan, so he's obviously not that strong. And apparently the Matimba male has been mating with these lionesses. So, yeah, you can never be absolutely sure with behavior as to what's going on. Angie in Ohio would like to know, will the dominant males eventually just accept him, or what would happen? Will they just keep chasing him away, or what will happen? Angie, there's no definitive answer to that question. It's unlikely that he will last. Should the males eventually decide to get really aggressive with him, because he's now going to see what will happen is that he will get to an age where he will now start to try and mate with other members of the pride, and that's normally when he will either have a fight to the death or he will leave. And normally he'll be much smaller. I haven't seen the Matimba males, but I'm assuming they're much bigger than him. If it comes down to a fight, he's going to lose quite badly, and then he would probably leave. I suspect that the males at the moment are probably not that aggressive with him because he hasn't tried to mate yet. I'm guessing here. I don't know that for sure, but sort of textbook lion behavior would be that they would come in and eventually chase him out, but the textbooks are proved wrong again and again. So yes, he might survive through his life with the pride. I think it's unlikely, though. I hope that answers your question, Andrew. Lisa Osborne, thank you for your question. Lisa wants to know, do the lions look well fed? From what I saw, they look fine. They don't look like they've just fed. They certainly look healthy, though. They were hunting this morning, though. They chased some buffalo and obviously missed. It's going to be difficult for them to it was right outside our house as we were having our morning coffee, and it's just they're not skinny, so they're probably looking to eat, but they're not desperate. Difficult for them to kill buffalo with only one young male, but certainly not beyond their reach at all. Wait for this other vehicle to position, and then we might try another view, but it's going to be difficult in this condition, I think.
Morning.
How's it?
Great.
James, how's it going?
How many did you count here? 8.
I haven't counted. Yeah. Okay, we're just going to cross over to Marc now to see how he's doing. We've got, I forgot to mention, of course it's my first day, we've got Brian on camera. Brian is dressed for the North Pole today. And in final control we have Tara, who is something of a genius on computers. I met her yesterday. And obviously Brent, who will be drinking a lot of coffee probably at the moment. So we're going to go off to Marc now, and then we'll come back to the lions if anything happens here. Okay.
No, it doesn't seem like it.
One thing about this mist, and it's starting to fade, is the light, especially with the sun rising, and really, Liam called it eerie. It is a bit eerie, especially this morning driving in the dark with the mist. We should be seeing quite a lot of vegetation beyond this first line of trees, but it's all shrouded in mist. And this little open area, I can't remember what type of grass this is. It could be a couple of different grasses, but the light coming through the grasses is quite amazing. I know there's Aerogrostis in there, and some panicums. That is a funnel web spider. It's not anything like the Australian or Sydney funnel web from southeastern Australia. These are quite harmless funnel web spiders, and with this mist we get a lovely idea of what spider webs look like, because the droplets that form on even the thinnest and tiniest strands of silk are quite amazing. It reminds me that we've just passed something that I wanted to find for you elsewhere, but now that we're actually not too far from it, I'm going to go back shortly to get to see it. Certainly lucky, his first drive out to be spending with Ryan. I think that's absolutely fantastic. It's a great welcome for James. Nice to hear that the Nkuhumas are back, that the young male is there. we were driving along. I've actually seen it twice this morning. First time was just after we saw that elephant. And I was heading around to Guertela Access Road and Aubrey's Road to see if we could find it again. And the others that probably with her. But they're still in this very big block. So I'm going to follow up on some tracks of a big bull that also might be around. But first, I know this seems a little bit odd. But it is interesting. Not as exciting as lion. But a nice little trick. Because we do see some nice webs with the sun and the light and the mist. It's a similar kind of creature, but different. So where would be the best view of it? Look further back. In a milkberry tree just across from us. We'll get a different view with better light on it. The sun's gone behind the cloud now. Another spider that we have here is actually a communal spider. I nearly said commercial. That'll be the day. The spiders are selling their own silk. But that's a communal caterpillar, not the communal or social spider. And although it looks very similar to the social spider web, there are a couple of fundamental differences. And one of them is that these caterpillars, they are a communal social caterpillar. I think they're limantrid caterpillars. They spin silk to protect themselves, and within that silk I heard an elephant. They're not far from us. Just heard something breaking a branch. Why we need to stop and listen every now and then and talk about caterpillars and spinning silk. But that particular web is full of little caterpillar droppings, and of course a spider's web, they keep it pretty clean because they need to feel the vibrations of insects, anything that moves within their web. Now, the elephants are a little bit too far in. I'm going to try and reverse a little bit more and see how open it is behind us. I can't really turn around down here. Maybe I can. Get a different view of the caterpillar nest from this angle. Bit of sunlight on it, sorry VM. It's almost impenetrable silk. That's one of the reasons why they do that, because it protects them from predators like birds and wasps and ants and, well, anything that eats caterpillars, even if they're not a very juicy caterpillar. Very pretty tree that they're on, milkberry. forest ahead of us. There's a lot of tambuti and knobthorn, bush willow, a little bit of cluster leaf. Somewhere in here, a group of elephants snapping twigs and breaking branches. I'm not sure if we're going to get to see them, but we've got lots of other things to do this morning, and just listen here for a minute. Oh, bad angle. Very uneven ground. There's very fresh dung next to me. This is probably the female, maybe, that we saw